Ever notice how you come across somebody once in a while you shouldn't have messed with? That's me.
I am not an African American.
You're Oreo cookie, white in the inside and black on the outside.
I don't have an afro, I have an Amerifro.
Talking that idiotic stuff you talk about, I would slap you.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Black at the ace of spades, but 100% American.
Heard around the world by everybody and their mama. The Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show.
We are back. Welcome to the second edition of the Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show, uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We're also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. We're taking your phone calls at 888-77-53-773, 888-77 Jesse. Dr. Scott Lively is here. He's taking your phone calls at 888-77-53-773, 888-77 Jesse. You said just before the break that you do have fear when it comes to blacks and dealing with them. Excuse me. Is it you have this fear of being called racist?
Well, yeah, I think it's built in. It's one of the worst things. There's only a few things that you can be called that are really almost insurmountable. You can be a Holocaust denier, you can be a child molester, or you can be a racist. Those are the big ones. And I've actually been called all three. All not a child molester, but I've been called a racist, and I've never been a racist, but I've been called that.
Right.
And you have to be sensitive, especially when you're dealing with liberals. If you're dealing with, I was on a show years ago, Montel Williams.
Yeah.
I was flown back to New York, and they didn't tell me until I got there that the name of the show was called White Men on the Edge. I was set up. So it's me and a couple other white guys sitting on the stage, completely black audience, and the topic was affirmative action, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I generally speak my mind, but I was afraid when I actually took my position, and I did, off the top of my head, basically saying, look, the problem with affirmative action is it breeds resentment.
Yes.
Right? That's the problem.
Does. And
now,
it's degrading to black people because it says that you can't make it on your own.
Right. And the same thing, we're going to be talking about my case in Africa. It's the same thing. I'm being accused of crimes against humanity for preaching against homosexuality in Uganda.
What are you afraid of, though, as a racist? What would happen to you if they call you a racist?
Well, it's not so much that let me make the point that I don't self-censor because I'm afraid. It's just I speak through it like that. That's like speaking from the stage. I was able, even though I was afraid of the consequence. I said the truth that it breeds resentment.
What are the consequences of being called a racist?
Well, it's like being called a homophobe by the gays.
I know, but what would happen to you though, as a white man? Once you're called racist, what happens to you?
Well, you are then discredited in the minds of the public who doesn't know. Matter of fact, that's what they did to Phil Robertson with the Duck Dynasty thing.
Right.
They couldn't get him. There was so much support for him on the homosexual topic that they brought in a false accusation of racism.
Yeah.
So now, whenever you hear him being discussed, you hear that A&E cut him for homophobic and racist comments,
That's
right?
true.
Because they knew the racist line was a stronger one than the homophobic one because there's more people that are sensitized to that.
Wow. Could you have fear and believe in God too?
Sure. I mean, well, there's a
But perfect love
trepidation.
casts out fear, though.
Well,
I have no fear.
Yeah.
I had fear prior to him changing my life, and I've been called nigger, Uncle Tom, sellout. You hate your mama, you hate your daddy, you gay, you hate
you
men.
got a tough line here with this.
I've been banned from several radio stations. Had guns drawn on me.
Well, courage, Jesse, as you know, courage is not the absence of fear. It's doing what you know is right despite fear. And that we're just human beings. I mean, I have less fear than most people that I know. But
Right.
I do have fear about some things, but I press on for what's right.
In spite of
I don't
the fear,
self-censor.
huh?
I don't
Yeah.
self-censor.
In spite of the fear, if white people don't overcome the fear, it's going to only get worse.
Well, they're sort of in a box in that.
But they don't have to be, though.
I think that the conservative blacks have a much greater responsibility to step up and take that on.
No, we
you're
all do.
You're an inspiration all over the country. You really are. But there's not a lot of people that are stepping up and following your example. They're afraid. Blacks are also afraid of speaking against black racism. So if they aren't going to do it, the white guy who's living next door to them certainly isn't going to do it.
That's amazing. I have to give credit to God, though, because on my own, I wouldn't be able to do it either. Yeah. I know that. But he just took away the fear.
Daniel in the lion's den.
Yeah,
right?
He causes me to do the things I do. Yeah. Prior to that, there's no way I would be doing what I do and then go through what I've had to go through thus far.
But the rewards that come from serving
amazing.
Him in a tough area,
it's amazing.
They're boundless.
Words cannot describe. Yeah. Let's talk about this sexual minority.
Smug.
Tell us about that. What happened first that brought on this suit?
Well, I'm actually been called by Al Gore's current TV program the father of the Ugandan pro-family movement, because I've been involved there since 2002, helping them to overcome or to resist the George Soros, homosexualization effort of Uganda. See, Uganda was the only country in Africa to turn its AIDS rate upside down through Christian values.
Oh, good.
Right? And not following this condom thing and the whole sexual revolution approach. And that scared the globalists, and so they said, well, we got to take Uganda down, and the way we're going to do that is the same way that Balaam told Balak is sexual immorality. Corrupt them with sexual immorality, bring in the sexual revolution, and you'll change that culture. I happen to be, just by divine connection, appointment, the substitute speaker for Uganda's first national pro-family conference back in 2002 against pornography and obscenity. And then when I went into the country and saw what was going on, they were all up in arms about this effort to change their culture from the outside. And I looked around and I said, well, I'll tell you what's going on, who's doing this and who they are. And that's what I laid out. And I said, this is the international gay movement, being used by the globalists to homosexualize your society. And then, so over the next 10 years or so, they worked to try to stop it, but it was getting worse and they weren't able to.
Right.
So in 2009, they held another conference in order to sort of prepare people for a new law they were going to write. Hadn't been drafted yet. I didn't know what was in it. And but we did a 3-day conference there, and out of that conference... You were
invited to come in to Uganda.
Yeah, okay. I was the keynote speaker for a 3-day conference on explaining the homosexual agenda, how it works, how it influences the society, etc.
Good for you, man.
That's what I do all over the world. I've been to 40 countries doing this.
And so you were able to change it then.
Well, unfortunately, what happened is that they didn't follow my advice. I spoke to the Ugandan Parliament, or members of it anyway, in their National Assembly Hall, and I said, don't focus on punishment. Focus on rehabilitation, reparative therapy, and focus on prevention by educating kids from the kindergarten all the way through on the importance of marriage and preparing kids to be the best husbands and wives they can be.
Right.
In your national school system. That would be the first. You'd be the first country in the world to do this, and it would be an example to everyone.
Yes.
But instead of doing that, I came home, and 6 weeks later or so, they came out with what the gays started calling the Kill the Gays bill. It had capital punishment for. And now the finger's pointing at me. They're calling me the mastermind of this. To be honest, it was actually focused mostly on pedophilia. But I don't even support the death penalty for that. But anyway, that was so I had to deal with this accusation that I went over there for that purpose. But here's the racist part of it. They're basically suggesting that one American evangelical pastor speaking against homosexuality in Uganda overpowered the independent will of the duly elected legislature of the country, and so that I'm responsible and not the government that actually put the law forward.
So you have great powers and you didn't know it.
It's amazing.
And so they passed a bill over there, and part of that bill was kill the gays.
Well, they didn't actually pass it.
Did not?
No, they just proposed it, and then we had this global firestorm where everybody's attacking Uganda, and then. They did pass it recently, but they took the death penalty out.
Oh, okay. And then, so now you're up for charges against crimes against humanity. Tell us about that when we come back and what's going on with it.
All right, we'll do it.
Back in a moment, folks.